And welcome back. This is your man Warrior, and this is a Darth Nihilus in-depth character review. He is a dark side Sith support character. He is a phenomenal addition to the game. Now, if you've been playing this game more than about 3 months, you should have Darth Nihilus at 3 stars and unlocked, because they did an event free for everybody to unlock Darth Nihilus. And if you're unlucky enough to not have unlocked him, you can get him in shipments and unlock him, but he is, right off the bat, a must-have for every single person in the game. He will be relevant for the entire game till the end, for sure, because of his abilities, and we'll get into that. He is a Sith support that will constantly and instantly defeat your enemies, and he'll do that through draining their cooldowns, increasing theirs, and decreasing his own. His overall power rating is 9201. With mods, I was able to get it up to about 10,300. He's about 16th out of like the 113 characters, so he's in the top, 15th, 16th in power. His speed's just under average at about 120. With mods, I was able to get it up significantly. His health is just a little bit above average at 24,000. So we're going to go into it, and I will tell you what, this guy, Darth Nihilus, can take out your enemies like I can take cheesecake out and make it disappear at a food festival. So we're going to go into a little bit of his synergy, team compositions, why Darth Nihilus, what are some of his cool stats, things like that. Now, the first thing I want to go off of is everyone asks this question, 3-star, is he viable? And let me go into what the difference is between a 3-star and a 7-star Darth Nihilus for your benefit. First, and this may surprise a lot of people, there is no additional protection gain from 3-star to 7-star. Whatever protection you have at 3-star is the maximum protection capability that you can have on that character. So if you have a 3-star Darth Nihilus max gear and a 7-star Darth Nihilus max gear, you will get the exact same amount of protection, which, by the way, is the second most protection of any character in the game. That's right, more than every other tank in the game except for one, which is Sunfac, who has a slight bit more protection. Otherwise, he's not a tank, but he has the second most protection. Pretty cool. And he's going to have, when he goes from 3-star to 7-star, about 6,000 more health, which is a little bit, but that's not a significant amount, from 18,000 to 24,000. He'll do about 600 more damage, which is a good chunk, but it's not significant enough to worry about. And he gets about 50 more armor, which is about 25% of his armor rate. So he gets about 75% of his base armor from the 3-star unlock. He's also a little bit more likely to crit as he goes up in the star rate. Other than that, essentially all stats are the same, so he's highly viable at the 3-star rate. Now, some of the really cool team synergies is really any team. Absolutely any team that you have that you want to put him in, he is a great fifth wheel. He can be put into rebel teams, empire teams, a clone team. It doesn't matter. He can go anywhere, and the reason for that is his abilities, like I said, that we'll be going into. He can definitely go under a Darth Vader lead, because if you Zeta Darth Vader's lead, damage over time becomes a thing, and he can contribute to that. So that is a definite strategy, is putting him with Darth Vader. He can follow other Sith and be very tanky and durable and act as a dispeller for your Sith, so that way you can get around other people's tanks and taunting and things as such. And you can also use him as a leader for a Sith team, and we'll go into that again when we get into his abilities. So really, there's a ton of synergy out there, but really, he's one of those characters that is a must-have that can go in any team composition. Now, some really cool fun facts is he is number 6th in the game as overall highest special damage. And we're talking about his stat for special damage. It's the highest at about 6,500 base special damage. That is significant. number 6. He's also number 4, the highest special critical chance. This is the chance of your special critting is the base stat that's coded into the game. He's got the number 4 highest. So there's a really good chance, even without mods, he's going to be critting. Number 2, most protection, even at unlock. So when you get this guy, he will have the second most protection, only bested by Sunfac. And that means that with mods and him max gear, you can add approximately 48 to 50,000 protection onto this guy. Talk about tanky. He is the number 7th highest tenacity character in the game. Naturally has a high tenacity, which is over 1/3, which is pretty amazing. And that number 6 high special damage we talked about, that equates to the number 6 top special attack in the game. But his basic is actually number 4 in the number 4 top basic attack in the game. And he is the only character with a guaranteed insta-kill. Now, let me explain. There's a lot of people saying, well, Darth Vader and his Culling Blade, you know, that could kill. And Boba Fett, if they've got... Okay, there's a bunch of precepts with that one. You got to have them stacked with dots, or you got to have a bunch of buffs and debuffs, and it's got to land, they can't evade, blah, blah, blah. There's a ton of things that can go wrong with that equation. The way that Darth Nihilus is coded, it is physically impossible for the opponent to evade. It is actually coded as unresistible, which goes across all coding and makes sure that this guaranteed, no matter what is going on with the opponent, it kills that opponent guaranteed. So pretty absolutely amazing. Currently, you can find him in only 2 locations, in chromium packs and in the shipments from time to time for your crystals. Remember, he is viable at only 3 stars. All you need to get him to is 3 stars. The only thing you won't be able to use him for at 3 stars will be the raids, depending on which raid you're doing. If you go all the way up to heroic, you would need him at 7 stars. Anything below that, a T6 raid, he'd need to be 6 stars, so on and so forth. Outside of that, for Galactic War, Arena, you know, the battles, Cantina battles, anything like that, he's completely viable at 3 stars. Now let's go ahead and talk about his gear. The average raid gear for a character in the game is 3.5. He's right at average at 3. The average gold gear in the game is 220. He's right on par at 220. And the average purple gear currently is 1105, which is ridiculous. And he is at 950, almost about 150 less purple than average. Overall, I would say he is average to gear, but the gear he uses is very expensive to equip at about 718,000 credits in the game. Now let's go into attacks and abilities so you can see what this guy is all about. He is absolutely amazing. First is his Ceaseless Craving. It is going to deal special damage. Now there's physical and special, and it's just a classification. Some characters do physical, some characters do special. He'll deal special damage to a target enemy and dispel all buffs on them. If any buffs were dispelled, it reduces the cooldown of Drain Force by 1. So he has a chain effect where the basic reduces the first special, and the first special reduces the second special. And so he speeds himself up as far as his cooldowns significantly. The only thing you really need to know about this is this basic attack is the 4th top basic. My Darth Nihilus can hit for an average of around 10k consistently on a basic. Now, while that is not Rey or, you know, first order TIE pilot hitting for 20 or 30K, it is still very consistent damage and is not something that you should, you know, be like, oh, that sucks. That is a really great amount of damage. The second thing you want to know about it, aside from the fact that it does excellent base damage, is that you definitely want to target someone that has a buff on them, because when a buff is removed, it will reduce the cooldown of Drain Force by 1. So when you're attacking somebody that has no buff, what happens is you're not taking advantage of this ability to its fullest. So the good news is there's a lot of tanks that taunt. He'll probably be the dispeller that dispels that taunt, which will reduce his cooldown of his Drain Force. But make sure if there is anyone across the way that is buffed, that you target them to ensure you maximize not only the damage that you do, but the reducing of the Drain Force cooldown. His first special is called Drain Force. It has a cooldown of 3 when maxed out. This is an AoE. It's an area of effect, means it affects everybody on the board potentially. It does around 25 to 2800 damage, and it does special damage again. And it's going to do special damage to all enemies with, and there's 2 precepts here, either 50% chance or 100% chance. A 50% chance to increase cooldowns by 1. So it's kind of like an ability block in the sense that he's going to do this to everybody across the way, and half the time each character is going to be run separately through the RNG, but about half the time their cooldown is going to go up, which essentially is like ability blocking them, because it requires them now to wait 1 additional turn to utilize whatever ability it was they were going to use. For example, Rex and his cleanse, he goes pretty quick and cleanses the team. If you can get this off first, it will raise his cooldown, preventing him from using his cleanse right away, which allows you to continue to whack away at the team that you're fighting. Now, this is where it gets really good. If they have any debuffs over their head, any red over their head, they automatically 100% have their cooldowns increased, because that 50% chance is doubled against the debuffed enemies. So that way it'll affect them. They'll have their increases. Now this works through foresight and anything like that. Now what is really cool about this is not only does it do damage, special damage to them, but it can increase their cooldowns. Now, like I said originally, how Ceaseless Craving, if it takes away a buff, will reduce the Drain Force cooldown from 3 to 2 or from 2 to 1 based off of how many times you get to use that Ceaseless Craving. Drain Force will reduce the cooldown of Annihilate by 1 for every cooldown increase on the other side. So if you increase cooldowns on 3 of the opponent's characters, you will reduce your Annihilate cooldown by 3. If everyone across the way gets debuffed and then you use Drain Force, all of them across the way will have their cooldowns increased, and Darth Nihilus will have his decreased by 5 potentially, which will take it from 8 all the way down to 3, and on his next turn that's now 2. So you can get him to utilize his Annihilate very fast by effectively using Drain Force as much as possible, which you'll need Ceaseless Craving to reduce as well. So pretty amazing ability, definitely dispelling and ability blocking essentially. Very, very cool. Now his Annihilate is what separates him from every other character in the game. He is a support character, but everyone should have him, and he has a long-term place in the game because of this. It will instantly defeat a target enemy, and this has a cooldown of 8. Nihilus will gain max health equal to the target's max health. Now what a lot of people think is this says he's gaining health as in he's, you know, if they have 20,000 health, he now has 20,000 health more in his pool. That's not actually what it's doing. If he has 25,000 health and he kills someone with 20,000 health, his now health pool capability is now 45,000. And so he's going to actually look like he loses health, but that's because his potential health is much larger now, because of what he's done. So it's growing his health pool. Now that is key because he has a leadership ability that really depends on his health and how much health he has and things like that. We'll go into that in just a second. But it doesn't actually give him life. It gives him the capability for more life, health, growth in that particular battle. The defeated target cannot be revived, so this works excellent against Boba Fett. This does override Boba Fett's ability to come back to life after death, or any other character that has that ability to be brought back. So there's a lot of people who use teams that use Old Daka or use other characters such as that during their revive capability, they can bring characters back. Even Jyn Erso has that capability where she does a special and she can bring one of the rebels back to life. If that character was annihilated, they are annihilated. They literally cannot come back to life. This ability is evaded, and it says it starts on cooldown. What that means is you have to wait for the cooldown to occur before you can utilize this ability. Whereas most abilities you can use right away, and then it has a cooldown to use it a second time. When it says starts on cooldown, that means you must, to use it one time, must wait for the cooldown first instead of getting instant access to it, which is fair. This is an overpowered ability for sure. Now, his leadership ability called Lord of Hunger, if he's the leader, gives him the ability to give all other Sith allies 60% offense and 150% health steal. So they're going to only do base damage, but it's going to be significantly more than they normally do, and they're going to gain a significant amount of health back. Now, why that was important, just a minute ago, Annihilate allowed for his health pool to be increased person across the way. So the character they kill, it increases his health pool. This gives him the ability to increase that health pool now with health through the health steal. All Sith allies are going to lose all their protection. So the protection they start with will go away, but it will go into their health pool. So when you're modding, keep that in mind. You definitely want protection, lots and lots of protection if you're going to have him as a leader, because that protection will be converted to health, and you want as much health as possible for the character. Sith allies will be immune to healing effects. These are all healing effects within the game except health steal. So health steal will be the only way for them to heal, but every Sith will be self-healing. Every single time they attack, they will heal back. And they can't score critical hits, which we know, but that is why they get the bump of 60% offense. So if they are modded with offense mods, and they get a bump of offense, these characters are going to be doing a lot, and I mean a lot of damage, base damage, and they will be getting 150% of that. So if they're doing 10,000 damage, they're going to gain 15,000 life back, 15,000 health back, all because of their base hit. So keep that in mind. It is a lot of health regeneration. One of the greatest combos for Darth Nihilus is having Count Dooku under him, because Count Dooku can gain back under Nihilus his health every time he attacks, and with his potential up to 4 attacks, he's going to gain health. And if you've got him modded right, he could do a terrible amount of damage and up to 3 or 4 attacks, which is going to give him anywhere from 10 to 30,000 health regeneration each attack, which is why so many people dislike and Darth Nihilus lead with Count Dooku. Now, there are some ways around that. Obviously, doing health down, health immunity, shock, daze, stun. There's a bunch of debuffs that can stop the Count Dooku counter that he has, but with him unchecked under Darth Nihilus, he can take an entire team out on his own. That is pretty amazing. So this is a great leadership ability. You won't see it a ton right now in the meta until Rex grows more. Rex is almost now 50% of the meta, and Darth Maul is the other 50% currently as I make this video. But everything is a puzzle. So Darth Maul becomes popular, then Rex becomes popular. Rex becomes popular, so now Darth Nihilus will become popular as a lead. Everything has a counter, and with Rex, the whole precipice of him is giving turn meter to the team through crits. This will prevent critical hits, which will not feed any turn meter to the team, and a lot of people are relying on Rex to speed their team up, which means potentially they're going to be crippled by a Darth Nihilus lead. So this is a great leadership ability, but you won't see it unless you see a bunch of Rex leads on your chart, and then you might see an upcropping of Darth Nihilus hitting the meta report. And the last ability is his unique. It is called Wound in the Force. It is not a bad ability. I do not have it Zeta'd yet, and the reason for that is just because there's been so many Zeta capabilities that I've gone crazy with other characters. This is not a bad Zeta. However, you have so many options, you're really going to have to decide on whether you want to apply this. If you are all in on Darth Nihilus, and you're going to be using him in a Sith team or under Darth Vader, then this is an absolute must. If you're not, then you wouldn't. So Wound in the Force says at the start of each of his turns, he is going to inflict a damage over time for 2 turns. Now, a damage over time is that red box, and it is equivalent to doing 1% damage each turn. 1% damage, okay? So out of 100% of their ability, it's going to be 1% of their health. So that's how much a damage over time gets, 1%. And it gives them that for 2 turns on a random enemy that doesn't have any debuffs. So whoever doesn't have a debuff, it's going to give it to that person or that character. And if all enemies are debuffed at the time that he is going, it says it's going to inflict damage over time on just a random enemy. So someone's going to get it, but it's going to start with someone who doesn't have a debuff, and if they're all debuffed, it'll just go to a random enemy. At the start of each enemy turn, now this is the opponents going, at the start of each of their turns, Nihilus is going to actually inflict health down, 20% negative health on them for 2 turns. So every single time, every single character goes, they're going to get health down. Not only is this a guaranteed debuff on every single person, but it's putting their health down by 20%, which makes them significantly more squishy. Now, a combination thought process on this is health is down by 20%, and if you had Sith Assassin or Sith Trooper who can hit directly to the health, skipping protection, you can much more easily get that character into less than 50% health. With them in less than 50% health, if you have Savage and his Omega ability that gives his ability to kill anyone that's under 50% health, you can literally not worry about other characters' protection, rather hit them with this unique for each turn to reduce them, let your Sith Assassin hit directly to health, and have your Zeta Savage, let your Savage go in and eliminate. Pretty cool combinations with the Sith teams for sure. And Wound in the Force, this is definitely worth it if you're all in for Darth Nihilus. It's an excellent way to make the opponent's team squishier because every single turn they're going to get it for 2 turns. Even if they cleanse it, the next time they take a turn, it's going to apply it again. So a lot of people are asking, how do you mod? Now there's 2 thought processes with modding, if he's a leader or if he's not a leader. So let's really quick talk about if he's a leader. If he's a leader, you're going to want offense mod set and health mod set with as much speed and protection secondaries as possible. If you go into how I modded him, this is him not in a leadership role. You will do critical chance and critical damage to increase his critical chance and his critical damage with speed secondaries and protection secondaries as much as possible. So if we look, I've got my top left is offense. It's actually only a 4%, but it did have 12 speed. Not all mods have to be 5-dot mods. If they've got good stats, use them. Of course, this increased his offense a little bit as well. In the processor, it had, again, it was defense like it always will be on primary, but his secondary stat was 13 speed. That is really good speed. On the bottom left, it had decent secondary speed, and it had 16% protection. Again, this would be nice if it was a 5-dot mod, so I could get the additional protection addition. On the bottom right multiplexer, I have protection in there with some secondary speed. In the primary stat here, it could be critical chance or critical damage. I have chosen critical damage, and the reason for that is because he is in the top 5 highest crit chance capability for his special ability at over 200%, so he's more than likely going to crit, and this gives him the ability to do more of that critical damage. It had some protection and some additional speed. And the top right, I currently have a secondary of speed on there, but accuracy, I am not sure if it really is helping or is effective in this current meta. I've got a lot of Maul teams I go against, and I use Darth Nihilus, and I use this to try to negate some of that dodging and that evading that happens with the teams that have the Maul lead. I do not know if accuracy is really working the way it's intended. I went against a Maul and literally had them evade 10 out of the first 14 attacks, and 3 of my characters have accuracy mods as primary stats instead of speed. If this would be a speed, I'd have him over 200 speed, and I've sacrificed speed for accuracy, and I'm not sure that it's effectively working, so this could change. Traditionally, the arrow, you want a 30 speed to be put in here, but again, because of Maul and what the rampant use of him is in the meta, I have currently chosen to try accuracy as the stat that I put in here. So as many of you know, in the past I had done a Galaxy Star rating for characters. This is to determine how effective a character is, and it was a 1 through 5 star rating. 1 star meant don't bother with that character, they need work done on them. 2 star was meh. If you had it and you had everything else done, then maybe, but not really. 3 star was there's really nothing better to do. You've already got everybody else, so why not? And 3 star is pretty average, meaning that they've got some utilitarian ability, but they maybe aren't usable in every area of the game, or maybe they are at that point where they kind of need a rework to become relevant. Number 4 4-star characters were, they need to take a number because they're important to you and to the game, but there is 5-star characters more important. And then the almighty 5-star, where you need to farm those characters like yesterday. That's right, 5-star characters are the top of the line. They are the most overpowered characters in the game that are relevant and you need to have. So 5-star, super important. 4-star, just as important almost as 5-star, but they need to take a number to the 5-star characters. You got to work the 5 stars first and then move on to the 4 stars. And then after that, if you've got all your 5 and 4-star characters done, go to your 3-star. This is a proprietary list that I've created. There's a video in the past. I will be updating it soon. But let's see where Darth Nihilus lands in the 5-star Galaxy Star rating. Take a trip and let's find out. So what are your thoughts on Darth Nihilus? How would you use him? Do you want him as a leader? Do you want him as a support character in one of your teams? As always, keep your gaming on. Warrior out.